All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
I appreciate the recorded applause. I don't see anybody in the studio. I hear applause unless there's something going on I'm not aware of. I'm guessing it is recorded. But let me just say, recorded applause may be the best kind of applause because it's the kind of applause that you can count on. And very few things in this life can you count on. Kim is here.
Kim, how are you?
Albert is here.
Albert, thank you.
We've got a great Friday show for you. The great Cenk Uyger from TYT will join us off the top, along with Michael Shure, who he himself is a regular here and is also a TYTer. I hope your Halloweening went well. Kim was, there's no other way to say it, she was drunk last night when I tuned into the,
That's true.
It is,
what?
I'm just saying she was weaning more than she was hallowing last night. I don't know what was going on. What was funny was to watch you and Nikki Maduro talk about, like, women's reproductive freedoms while Nikki was dressed as, what was she dressed as, a minion? Or what was she
was
dressed
a minion.
Yeah, it was kind of bizarre. But I loved it, and I'm going to love this Friday show. Glad everybody's here. So before I get right to Cenk, I have to show you what is going on in the world of Donald Trump's attempt to get reelected. I think there's some insanely serious stuff going on with Trump. He is truly seeming more unhinged in so many ways. His rhetoric, what he says in interviews, in speeches. But there are moments where there is a bite back. And the bite back came, and we just want to show you this one piece of a video, with the city of Albuquerque. He lands in Albuquerque last night, or yesterday afternoon, actually, and they wouldn't let his plane park in Albuquerque because he still owes them $500,000 from 2019. You know,
classic.
Trump is notorious for not paying what he owes. I mean, he stiffs everyone from contractors to municipalities and cities. So he still owes them $500,000 from 2019.
That's crazy.
And he asked to use the local convention center for his rally, but the city of Albuquerque said, there are repairs at the convention center, you can't go there. And finally, they land there at the hangar at the airport. But the state would not allow people to park 2 miles down the road, I guess. And that, in other words, there was a parking lot 2 miles down the road. The whole situation was apparently unbearable.
Wow.
And still, Trump had this kind of rally at the Albuquerque airport runway because he's not really allowed to, again, dock his plane there in Albuquerque. But then, and this is the final point on this, here he is there. There's the Trump rally that they kind of put together there in Albuquerque.
At the airport? Is that where they were? Okay.
This is at the airport, right, Albert? Yeah, it's right there at the, yeah. So the final straw, or just maybe the one cherry on top kind of moment, was that Marjorie Taylor Greene showed up to kind of root him on, you know. She's the wannabe girlfriend of Donald Trump. And here's the greeting that she got from Trump. He gets off the plane. She's clapping. He walks right to the crowd, ignoring her completely. It is wonderful. Yeah. But you know, that only will make her want him more. You know that, right? Isn't that right, Kim? That's the way it works.
Leave him wanting more. That's right.
Yeah, leaves him wanting more.
Keep clapping, Marjorie.
That's your breaking Trump news. And then, as I say, there's some serious stuff, very serious stuff with Trump as well. We'll get to that. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to welcome in two guys who very generously agreed to be with us at the top of the show today. He is the founder of TYT, the largest online news network in the world. I think he is so centered, so brilliant, and so dogged in his determination to actually make a change in this country. And he has made a change in many ways. And he continues this election cycle. How about it for Cenk Uygur, everybody? And he is joined by our regular political analyst and dear friend of the show, Michael Shure, everyone. Thank you, guys. I know, to get you guys both here is really a treat.
Well, let me just say something, Mark.
Yes, sir.
I'm having trouble with this signal. I know it's tough for Cenk. He may just have to talk for a minute before he gets to me. I'm gonna sign on to a different internet wireless thing here and see how we go.
Okay. All right. Well, people love their Michael Shure. You can see already. Michael gets the thumbs up from Ricky O'Bear. I mean, Cenk, huge fan, says Julie. Just confused as to who you support sometimes. Yeah. How about that, Cenk? I mean, isn't that a good thing that we don't know exactly who you're going to support sometime?
Yeah. So I'll clarify here, but I think it's generally a good thing. So I'll explain. So first of all, in the things that you said, Mark, I got so much to say already. Number one, you said the canned applause is better, right? Because you don't have a real studio audience. Well, that was one of my favorite things about Trump's latest arrangement is when he said, the studio audience, the debate we had, they went wild for me. There was no studio audience. Just for Cocoa Puffs. I love this new term that people came up with, and it's really true. Sane washing, right? Yeah. Like he's insane, but we have to pretend that he's not insane because we don't want to hurt the feelings of folks, etc. Right? And so, and then in New Mexico, he came in, he said, and this was great about Trump. Wait a minute, which side am I on? No, hold on. He said, I'm here because I'm having trouble with the Latinos and the Hispanics, so they told me to come here. I'm like, you're not supposed to say that out loud, you schmuck. Okay. I'm sorry for the unfortunate phrase here, but he has verbal diarrhea. Like, he just can't contain himself. Whatever's
right, he says exactly what comes to mind. That's exactly right.
And that's both his great advantage and disadvantage, right? That's partly what his fans love about him, right? They're like, oh, he's a real guy. He just says whatever the hell comes to his mind, which normal politicians don't do because it's not that smart. Right? So on the other hand, he also admits terrible things 24/7, including his desire to terminate the Constitution. So so as you can begin to tell, no, I'm definitely against Donald Trump. But the reason that people get confused sometimes is because we do an actual news show where we criticize everyone in power. So that includes Democrats, Republicans, whoever else it might be. We also give credit where credit is due. So we'll, point out some of the things that Joe Biden did that are forgotten that were really good. Some positive things that Kamala Harris did that fly under the radar, and then criticize them appropriately when it's called upon. And with Trump, the reason I'm so massively against Trump is because it's a target-rich environment. So, sure. He really doesn't leave you with any choice but to support his opponent because he's so nuts.
I'm seeing all kinds of questions for you. Some of them are a little bit extreme. I'll get to them if I possibly can. But it does appear that in this candidate, Trump, you have a guy who is not afraid of saying things that are really the sort of policy decisions or strategies that would really turn the economy on its side. He loves this tariffs thing, and the more people explain how crippling tariffs would be, the more he leans into tariffs. He really likes to be a contrarian that way, and that's just on the economy. He has demonized the left and demonized his opposition in ways that we've never seen. I mean, the latest is, of course, calling out Liz Cheney, and, it's suggested based on the phraseology. We'll play you the clip a little bit later that he was really calling for her to, face an execution, a firing squad. Again, these, even if he didn't literally mean that or say it literally, these, to even sort of suggest it or hint at it, these things are a kind of politics we've never seen in the modern age.
Yeah, Mark, that's exactly right, and that's a great example of how what people might be confused as to quote unquote which side I'm on, because I hope I'm on the side of truth. So let's break that down. So he says, she's so pro-war, but at the same time, well, what if she was staring down the barrel of this gun, etc. And he creates this like very significant visual about how she could get killed, right? So then some folks on the left say, oh, he was talking about executing her, but he wasn't. He was saying that she's such a war hawk, but she would never normally go into war, etc. And that's true about her dad, for example. I mean, he had 4 or 5 deferments that he blamed on minorities, and then he started every war we could imagine. But at the same time, I would say, hey, our side, bring it down. He didn't say execute her, right? And then so people go, oh, so you're for Trump. No, you can't say things like that in this context. It's not normal for a politician to talk about another politician facing down the barrel of a gun, etc. And especially with all the talk of violence and 41% of Republicans thinking that it might be time for violence in this country, etc., it's deeply irresponsible. So when the Trump people say, it's no big deal, no, it is a big deal. No, that's crazy to say. So we both have to contain ourselves from being so biased in either direction. And with Trump, when people overdo it, like when Debbie Dingell said he's going to start internment camps, he never said that. Don't, because then you're taking away credibility when you actually talk about the crazy things he does say. Then people don't believe it.
Yeah, this is really interesting and so true. And I guess we're late to the party on sort of a lot of this rhetoric in some ways, because I just think there is an oversteering on the part of the left when they jump on this stuff. But by the same token, it's like you don't need to plant more evidence at the crime scene. The guy is already, lawless. Michael, this is true. The kind of, and you really are out there in the, Michael covers these Trump rallies and really, rubs shoulders with these people. And you've seen this rhetoric up close. I do think, for example, the demonization of the opposition and calling the press the enemy of the people. By the way, that's one of the nicer things he said about the press. He's really, and you're the press in those rallies. This is a kind of rhetoric that we're just not used to seeing.
Well, right. And I think whenever his legacy is written, whether it's after his next term or after Tuesday, we're gonna look at the most lasting damage he has done, and that is to the Fourth Estate. That is to what we do, and sowing seeds of doubt constantly. We are the people that are supposed to be skeptical of what these people are saying, and to steer people in other directions to unedited, unresearched, unreported news written by people who did not come up through journalism. And I'm not, obviously there are going to be exceptions to what I'm saying, but I think that has, at a time when local newspapers are going out of business for reasons of progress, I guess, in some ways, but we don't have that last check. And he's saying that even when that box is checked and when people are looking at the balance that we try and put in there, that we're even lying. So I think that's going to be the worst part of his legacy. To what Cenk was saying, and I heard most of it, I would have agreed with Cenk 4 years ago. I would have disagreed with him about a lot of things, I'm sure, 4 years ago. I'm sure I did. But I don't know anymore. I don't know that we can't extrapolate from the things that he says to look at what those extremes are. I don't think that he even knows. So is Debbie Dingell right? I mean, not in terms of quoting people that Donald Trump is going to start internment camps all over the country. But is she right to think that, hey, maybe there are people in his circle that want to do that and will push him aside and convince him to do it? And he's not going to fight back at it. I understand what Cenk's saying. It's not a fact, so I wouldn't run with it. But it's also not fantasy, and that's the problem with Donald Trump and covering him.
He is surrounded, Cenk, by some very extreme people. I mean, Bannon, Musk is a true extremist. In fact, Musk has said, hey, there's going to be a lot of pain here in the short term when a Trump presidency actually gets started. I mean, that's typically not what you hear from politicians. But there are also other acolytes who will now inhabit the White House, right? He'll now be surrounded by people who really know the game. He didn't have that in 2016. It was more performative. I think he felt the theater of playing president was to surround yourself with all of these people who are experienced Washingtonians. Whereas now I think it's going to be a different game.
Yeah. So the short term that Elon Musk is referring to is all 4 years that he's in charge. It's going to be utter chaos. He's going to try so many different crazy things. And people have to keep in mind, this is an excellent reason to vote against him. They've tried to hold him accountable in 18 different ways. And if he gets reelected, it's over. It failed. There is no accountability left. So he will be able to do anything and everything he wants. What are you going to do? Try to impeach him? Try to arrest him? None of that's going to work. It didn't even work when you had him before. So, the lack of accountability is going to be horrific in the next 4 years. But actually, Musk is wrong because the damage is more long-term. So, for example, Trump spent like a drunk sailor when he was in charge. And what I mean by spend in that case was not all of it, but a lot of it went to over $2 trillion of it went to corporate tax cuts. And so he wound up adding $8.4 trillion to the debt. And I need you to understand the context of that. The debt was only 20 trillion when he came in. So he had about 40% to the debt in just 4 years. And he kept interest rates so low that it aggravated inflation when inflation came around. Why? Because he wanted things to be good when he was president. Oh, I had a great economy. Yeah, but that creates a sugar high, and that explodes on our head later with both the debt and inflation. So it is massive problems in that regard. And in the things that Michael's talking about, I draw a line in a place where I find to be reasonable, and I do get pushback from both sides on this. Both sides of this debate. I say that he's a fascist, but not a Nazi. So I think that there is a distinction. Nazi means, hey, we're putting people in gas chambers and we're on our way to slaughtering folks, right? And on a mass scale. And so he hasn't done that yet, and he hasn't shown an indication that he's going to put people in gas chambers, right? So that's too far, and that's a thing that should be reserved for actual Nazis, right? Now, having said that, why do I call him a fascist? And what's the distinction? Well, when you try to overturn an election with a fake elector plot to try to stay in office after you lost, well, that's a fascist move, right? I mean, this is kind of literal. When you say, let's terminate the Constitution because I lost. And he actually literally said that. I debate conservatives all the time. And when I hit them with that line, they can't believe it. And then when they realize it's true, they're like, I've had several conservatives go, oh, I didn't know that. That does make me rethink it a little bit. It's amazing that people don't know that. He said we should terminate the Constitution. So that's what fascists do. Fascists say things like we're poisoning the blood of our country. That's not an accident. I mean, you don't just pull that quote randomly, right? That's a Nazi quote, and he's using it. So Sandra Day O'Connor had a great line, and that was during the Bush-Cheney era. She said, when asked if she's concerned about them heading in a fascist direction, she said, we should avoid those beginnings so that we could avoid those ends.
Michael, he does speak the language of an autocrat in waiting, a fascist in waiting. You have to unmute, pal.
There you got me now. If you look at the meaning of the word Nazi, right? What is the National Socialist Workers' Party of Germany, right? So there is a nationalism that infects it. I agree with Cenk that this isn't Nazi, this isn't death camps, this is not to that degree. But fascism is pretty accurate, and the things that he wants to do in an autocratic way, and the people, look at the people that he admires around the world, from Putin to Netanyahu to Orban. I mean, these people are autocrats in the greatest sense of the word. I mean, I guess of all of of them, the democracies in Hungary and Israel are obviously stronger than what you have in Russia. But by the same token, he could choose other people around the world with whom to align himself, and he's chosen those three people who, however you look at them and whatever you think their motivations are, there's a real likeness in the way they've employed parts of fascism, parts of autocracy, and I think he admires that, and he likes a strong man. He has said it himself. He likes that sort of that lightning rod of a personality. We knew that in his first term. We actually knew that before his first term, and we saw it play out in his first term, and we've seen it as he has been a candidate. Look, even in the way he runs this campaign, there's plenty of time afterwards. So whether I'm right or wrong about this, I still think he's running a terrible campaign because he is talking in the exact same ways that he was speaking before. And by doing that, he is saying, I don't want the other people in my tent. I just want a strong tent of the people that are listening to me and like what I am saying. And that's, that to me speaks volumes about the kind of president he'll be in his second term.
It is true that we talk about how extreme his rhetoric is. His extreme rhetoric plays to his base, but it doesn't broaden his appeal, Cenk.
No, but there is something we've got to challenge ourselves on, right? Which is the reason why he's currently tied. He won a presidential election. That's stunning. I mean, this guy grabbing women by the genitalia. We all know it. A thousand unbelievable, unimaginable things. And he won an election, and he's on the edge of winning another one.
And he engineered a coup, and he may win another one. That's amazing to me. I mean, you only have to stop at the coup, as far as I'm concerned.
No, of course, that's a good point.
Yeah, and guys, think about it. So he only lost by 43,000 votes in 3 swing states in the last election, and that was after he butchered COVID, and all those people died, and he tried to pretend that it was no big deal because he was worried about how he was going to look, and he still barely lost. And this time he tried a coup and he still tied. So do not close your mind to why he's popular, because otherwise you'll miss it. You can't just say everyone else is a bad guy, they're all irrational, etc. So the thing that is animating most of his voters is that they hate the establishment, and they think that the establishment has been screwing them their whole life. They don't believe them. They don't believe the media. They don't believe the politicians. And they're not entirely wrong about that. And that is why I say I'm bilingual. I speak establishment and populist. I speak left wing and right wing. So I'm on the left. Nobody's confused about how that I'm on the left. Actually, some people are these days. But both because they think, oh, wait, since he speaks populist, maybe he's pro-Trump. And then some on the extreme left think, oh no, Cenk, he's way too right wing. Okay, but anyways, but guys, just because they're supporting Trump doesn't mean that all of those people, 50% of the country, are racist, fascist, sexist, etc. They're supporting it. A lot of them are supporting him because of the establishment is fighting him, and so they view him as the only populist option. Now, of course, I think he's a fake populist, and he's in it for himself. And he's a con man. And as a true populist, that bothers me even more because he's ruining the idea of populism, which I think is overall correct. So that's why he's so popular. And if the Democratic Party if Tim Walz is at the top of the ticket, for example, and he had free reign to run as he ran in Minnesota, then we have a little populist streak. And that's all we would need to be able to win these elections. And of course, if you actually did some populism, that would be amazing, but that's a separate conversation.
Yeah, you can. That seems to be indisputable, Michael, that many are just feeling as though the system they feel, I think, disenchanted with two things: the media, obviously mainstream media, et cetera, easy kind of demon, and the system has also been demonized, right? It's really viewed as an institution that oftentimes just doesn't address the people's concerns. So from that standpoint, you do see where this outsider, the first time, was able to get a lot of support. It's the second time that kind of surprises me,
Well, I mean, it remains to be seen what kind of sport he's going to end up with. But the fact that it's close, as Cenk said, speaks to that. I don't, it's a longer conversation than we have time for here, but it's an interesting one. My time spent with these people has shown me a lot more than how we tend to condense it. I don't think it's the establishment that I think there's part of it is the fun of it, is owning the libs. It's these elitists who they see as better educated than they are, living in cities, so better cultured than they are. You can say that's establishment. I guess I would need a better definition of what establishment is, but that is what motivates a lot of these people. So much, and I say this a lot, but when I go to these rallies and they talk about, there was there were so many empty seats in there, or people were leaving early. A lot of them don't even go in. A lot of them are there not for the game, they're there for the tailgate. And so it's to sit around and wear your F Joe Biden t-shirts and your, Kamala was whatever t-shirts and everything that disparages people on the left and says great things about Trump. I don't care what he says. I'm proud he was arrested. All of that stuff. He's a victim. It's a cult of personality as well. And a lot of it is a cult. And by no means, Cenk's absolutely right. Just because you vote for Donald Trump doesn't mean you're a racist. But as one civil rights leader once said to me, is that you look at who all the racists are voting for, and that tells you something very often. And I think that most of the people in established racism in this country are voting on the Republican side this year.
You've made the point here before, Michael, that people go to these rallies and they want the show. Oftentimes, they're there for the show. And I said the other day, it's like one big tailgate party to a lot of them. So you separate those who are politically animated from those who just want the show. In our last seconds, Panda asks, Cenk, explain the early voting, though. Women are smashing expectations. This is particularly news out of Pennsylvania. Early voting data, Cenk and Michael, has highlighted two potentially worrying trends for Trump. And they are essentially tied to the fact that women are showing up in big numbers, but also seniors, people over 65, are showing up in huge numbers in early voting in Pennsylvania, and they're voting Democrat, which is not typically something that seniors did. Guys, in our last seconds, comment on that. Go ahead, Cenk.
Yeah, so this is the most unpredictable election of my lifetime. You guys both know I love doing predictions. I got nothing here. Every poll is contradictory. Every number, every trend is contradictory. So you're right about Pennsylvania. At the same time, I think we're seeing terrible numbers out of Nevada and North Carolina. So what in the world's going on? I don't know. And so Trump is now bleeding out a little bit on senior citizens, to your point, Mark. And also he's starting to lose a little bit in non-college educated white voters, his base. But on the other hand, he's gaining among minorities. There's just no way of knowing who's going to win this race.
We're not sure he's gaining among minorities. In other words, the numbers among minorities, if you see the turnout, more black men than expected have been turning out for Harris, so they're happy about that. If she is able to turn out the vote, her margins should be good. If she's not able to, then Cenk, you're right, and those numbers will prevail. But if she's able, and that's what they're trying to do with the great field operation that they have, a better field operation than Trump, they're trying to do that. So yeah, it's an unusual election, but I think if we look at the election of 22, which is the last sort of national election we had, women came out in huge numbers. It was right after the Dobbs decision. That didn't end in 2022, so it's not surprising, Mark.
The only thing I'd say to that is that, Trump wasn't on the ticket in 2022. And
well,
I think,
he wasn't, but that's also energizing for people too. So there's probably
that's true.
Yeah,
and I'm losing the connection here, so I'm going to let you guys finish because it's really
well. We're
choppy.
done. We're pretty well done anyway. But Michael, we so appreciate you always. Okay, we'll see you again soon. Michael Shure, everybody. Cenk, as we finish up with you, go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, last quick thing here. So, you're both right. Trump wasn't on the ballot in 2022. That hurts the Republicans. He's the one that drives out voters, right? On the other hand, the fact that we switched from Biden to Kamala Harris might just put it a little bit more over the top in getting women out to vote, right? And so, it puts it over the top in a lot of ways because she's infinitely better than Biden as a candidate. But with women voters in particular, because at the end of the day, whoever turns out both their base and the unlikely voters more will win. And the big batch of unlikely voters on our side are women. So if she wins, it'll definitely be because an army of women came out to vote in ways that people did not expect. And that puts her over the top to win. And that would be a great story. That would be a beautiful story.
It's going to be a wrestling match after this thing finishes, should Trump not prevail, right, Cenk? It's going to be close anyway, as you've said, it would seem. And it's going to be a legal wrestling match. I don't know, apart from the legal side, because they've always got a plan. The GOP is trying to game the system now. I've never seen sort of an articulated strategy about cheating in a presidential election. I mean, like, we're going to protest these votes. We're not going to certify here. There's really a plan in place to not certify before you even had an election. It's a remarkable thing. I understand there's always been gerrymandering and dark money and all of these different ways to cheat the system. But now we're articulating ways to really cheat, like to suppress the people's voice in ways that extend beyond just voter disenfranchisement.
Yeah. So, okay, you're making me say one more thing.
Okay, this is the last thing. Go ahead.
Okay. So, real quick. About 2 weeks ago, 10 to 14 days ago, you're seeing a lot of stories about Democratic insiders going, the internal polling's not that great, getting bad stories out of Nevada. And then she's a couple of days ago pulls out her ads from North Carolina looking bad. And then in the last 4 or 5 days, all of a sudden we're starting to get reports from Trump camp that the internal numbers don't look good, and they're really worried about turnout in Pennsylvania. But here's something that's interesting and telling today. Over the last 24 to 48 hours, the Trump team has been screaming about how the election is rigged. You don't scream that the election is rigged if you think you're going to win it, right? If you think you're going to easily win, you don't go around saying it's rigged, it's rigged. So maybe that's good news, but there's no way of knowing until the numbers start to come in Pennsylvania.
The more they scream, I agree, the more their internal numbers must be dire. But as you said, we don't really know what will actually happen, regardless of what their internal numbers are. So
hey, you know what? Young Turks, Election Day. We're going to start out with Michael Shure. He's going to be our big analyst. And so if you can, check it out there. It's going to be super exciting.
Yeah, it sure is, and you guys do great stuff. You think Texas could flip?
No.
Yeah, I don't either.
I mean, I hope so, but I don't think so.
Yeah, right, I'm hoping to. But we're so close, and I just don't see it. Cenk, we'll see you later, and thank you always. You're always responding when we put up the bat beam. Cenk Uygur, everybody, from TYT.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Salam, Mark.
The studio audience loved it.
What's that?
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
All right, right on, everyone. Smash it. All right, I love it. What is that? That's Donald Trump's latest post? Is that what that is? What is it? I can't get a good look at it.
He's just wishing
What is he
everyone a
saying?
blessed and happy All Saints Day on Twitter.
I was going to say, that's a little religious. Wow.
Dude, he doesn't even, please. It's
Okay.
all theater to him, but I love it. Great. Look, I'm sure if you're religious, it's great to have somebody there saying Happy All Saints Day, even if he doesn't believe it. It still brings attention to you. And look, I don't think he cared about overturning Roe. I don't think he wanted to overturn Roe particularly. He doesn't have any political philosophy underpinning anything with him. He is about self-aggrandizement, right? Mm-hmm. And he is about making money. And so it's ego, brand, and money. But the people who are supporting him were the alt-right people. They continue to be. And they wanted to stack the court with these radical right-wing theocrats who overturned Roe.
Yeah.
So he doesn't even, but again, to get to my point, if you want to overturn Roe, if you want to take away a woman's reproductive freedoms because of the rest of the argument, you don't care whether the guy in charge actually believes it. He's opened the door, made the appointments so that it'll happen. That's how he is the empty vessel that the right uses. J.D. Vance, all of these guys who are smart, they see in Trump the reality. They see that he is one-dimensional. They see that he is a paper tiger. They see that he really doesn't care about policy and about attending any kind of briefings, about reading briefing materials. He doesn't care. So, perfect. Go play golf, and we'll reshape America. Musk will get even more power and even more control than he has. What tepid regulations exist on the banking industry and on the consumer protections, they'll be rolled back. The EPA will be dismantled, and there'll be no environmental protections, essentially. And you can go play golf, Mr. President, while we reshape America and make it great again. The economy will be turned on its side. Did you see The Economist is something that I read regularly. And The Economist did a great endorsement of Kamala Harris, even as many of these papers are saying it would take away our independence if we were to endorse, even though they all have histories of endorsing. All these major papers, the editorial team gets together and they endorse a candidate. And usually it's done by the editorial team in a way that is oftentimes independent of the reporting team. So you do have an independence even with the opinion people, if you will, sure, issuing the endorsement, as opposed to the street reporters involved, if you want to think of it that way. But The Economist, they make this point. I'll just give you a little bit of what they've said. A second Trump term comes with unacceptable risks, is what they said. They say if The Economist had a vote, we would cast it for Kamala Harris. And they start with a notion that there are a lot of different factions, sort of what we were saying with Cenk and Michael, who are voting for Donald Trump for different reasons. Some do it out of grievance. They think that Kamala Harris is a radical Marxist who's going to destroy the country. Some are fired up by national pride because Trump inspires them in the belief, they say, that with him in the White House, America will stand tall. But some, as they say here, will coolly opt to vote Trump as a calculated risk. And they say this: the last group of voters, which include many readers of The Economist, may not see Trump as a person that they would want to do business with or any kind of role model for their children, but they probably think that when he was president, he did more good than bad. And they go on to essentially lay out the case. They feel that that argument is recklessly complacent, that people have, and this is what I've said on this show for so long, Americans were fat and happy. We actually have a pretty good economy. The stock market is roaring. I get it. Out of COVID, there were issues, inflation issues, that continue to be faced by many Americans. It takes time for prices to come down. We talked about the rocket feather theory of economics, which is essentially, with any kind of interruption or any kind of event that affects the economy, prices rocket up. And then they feather down, they float down, they don't come down as quickly. There are a lot of reasons for that. One of them is greed. But the point here is that we've become so complacent, again, to use the word that the economists use. We become fat and happy. We become used to the good times, that we can afford to shake it up. The Biden presidency and Biden years have been pretty good. Mm-hmm. We came out of COVID and did pretty well. Now, back to their remarks. The case against Trump begins with his policies, they say. And I'm just picking out little bits and pieces. I'll post this. We can have a link to the article. Maybe there's a way I can gift it to people, but we'll put a link to this article. Anyway, I just found it. I thought it was a pretty good summary, so I'll share just little parts of it with you. The case against Trump begins with his policies. In 2016, the Republican platform was still caught between Mitt Romney, as the party of the Republicans, and the Trump party. Today's version is more extreme. Mr. Trump favors a 20% tariff on all imports and has talked of charging over 200% or even 500% on cars from Mexico. He proposes to deport millions of irregular immigrants, many with jobs and American children. He would extend tax cuts even though the budget deficit is at a level usually seen only during war or recession, suggesting a blithe indifference to sound fiscal management. We know he's not a sound fiscal manager. We know that. He can't manage his own books or his own businesses. He is constantly in debt, multiple bankruptcies. These are my words, not theirs, but we talk about that on this show all the time. So these policies, they say, all right, the tax cuts, the deportation of millions of irregular immigrants, the 20% tariffs, or the up to 500% on cars from Mexico, these policies would be inflationary, potentially setting up a conflict with the Federal Reserve. They would risk igniting a trade war that would ultimately impoverish America. The combination of inflation, out-of-control deficits, and institutional decay would bring forward the day when foreigners worry about lending the U.S. Treasury unlimited money. America's economy, they say, is the envy of the world. But that rests on it being an open market which embraces creative destruction, innovation, and competition. Sometimes it seems as if Mr. Trump wants to return to the 19th century, using tariffs and tax breaks to reward his friends and punish his enemies, as well as to finance the state and minimize trade deficits. Politics could yet wreck the foundations of America's prosperity. Another reason to fear a second Trump term is that the world has changed. In 2017 to 2021, it was largely at peace. Mr. Trump supporters chalk that up to his unpredictability and willingness to take strong and unconventional action, a combination that can indeed keep awkward countries in line. When the foreign policy elite warned of dire consequences after the assassination of Soleimani, one of Iran's main generals, Trump was vindicated. But as the next president takes office, 2 wars will be endangering America's security. In Ukraine, Russia has the upper hand, putting Vladimir Putin in a position to threaten further aggression in Europe. In the Middle East, a regional war creeping toward Iran could yet suck in the United States. These conflagrations would test Trump in a way that his first term did not. His glib promises to bring peace to Ukraine in a day and his open-ended encouragement of Israel's offensives are not reassuring. Even worse is his contempt for alliances. Although these are America's greatest geopolitical strength, Mr. Trump sees them as scams that let weak countries scrounge off their military power. Bluster and threats may see Mr. Trump through, but they could equally destroy NATO. China will be watching as it weighs up how aggressive to be against Taiwan. Asian allies may calculate they can no longer trust America's nuclear guarantee. The risks for domestic and foreign policy are amplified by the last big difference between Mr. Trump's first term and a possible second one. He would be less constrained. The president who mused about firing missiles at drug labs in Mexico was held back by the people and institutions around him. Since then, the Republican Party has organized itself around fealty to Mr. Trump. Friendly think tanks have vetted lists of loyal people to serve in his next administration. The Supreme Court has weakened the checks on presidents by ruling that they cannot be prosecuted for official acts. If external constraints are looser, much more will depend on Mr. Trump's character. Given his unrepentant contempt for the Constitution after losing the election in 2020, it is hard to be optimistic. Half his former cabinet members have refused to endorse him. The most senior Republican senator describes him as, quote, a despicable human being. Both his former chief of staff and former head of the Joint Chiefs call him a fascist. If you were interviewing a job applicant, they say, you would not brush off such character references. Good presidents unite the country. Mr. Trump's political genius is for turning people against each other. After the death of George Floyd, he suggested the army shoot protesters in the leg. America's prosperity depends on the idea that people are treated fairly, regardless of their politics. Trump has threatened to turn the Justice Department on his political enemies. Next to Mr. Trump, Kamala Harris stands for stability. True, she is underwhelming as a politician. She has struggled to tell voters what she wants to do with power. She seems indecisive and unsure. However, she has abandoned the Democrats' most left-wing ideas and is campaigning near the center, flanked by Liz Cheney and other Republican exiles. She has ordinary shortcomings, none of them disqualifying. Presidents do not have to be saints, and we hope that a second Trump presidency would avoid disaster. But, they say, Mr. Trump poses an unacceptable risk to America and the world. If The Economist had a vote, we would cast it for Ms. Harris. I think that says it. I mean, I could have written parts of that, and I think we've talked about so many bits of that on this show. It is, to me, so clear, it's so stark, and it's so scary, frankly, a second Trump term this time. So that's from The Economist, and I wanted to share it with you. I read you most of it, so you pretty much don't have to read it now. But I thought those are great takes.
Something that you and Cenk were talking about was the voter turnout, early voter turnout in Pennsylvania, and talking about seniors and women and the turnout there. And I was thinking about this meme that I saw, and it's about, there's no such thing, you can ban abortion. There's no such thing as banning abortion, only banning legal abortion. And that I was thinking that these seniors, especially the women amongst the seniors, remember a time when it was the whole backroom abortion thing, right? They remember that. This is a segment of the population that knows what it's like, and they can see the deaths already stacking up with these Trumpian abortion era laws. And so perhaps that's what's motivating these older women to get out and maybe not vote Republican like they had in the past.
That's such a great take. It's true that these people have lived through the pre-Roe years. And you know what's next? The abortion pill. Yeah. It will go away. Your access to that will go away. They are not stopping. This is a radical agenda. And even as they throw those rhetorical Molotov cocktails toward the left by calling them radicals and Marxist and she's a communist, the real radicalism, the real activism is the activist court, Supreme Court, granting presidential immunity, overturning Roe, allowing the disenfranchisement of voters in Virginia, so close to the election.
Crazy.
This is a court that has an agenda, and they're bought and paid for, of course, by the right. We've seen that with Clarence Thomas, with Alito.
Their agenda is cash.
Yeah. I mean,
and
that
fancy
too.
trips on big jets and concerts and
Yeah, exactly. So there's all of that. Albert, I'm at a fork in the road, sir, and
the Mark Thompson Show.
I would ask before I speak to Albert, I'd ask that you smash the like button if you would. We have a
iron rod.
It's an algorithm with our YouTube overlords, and it helps us if you hit the like button. I don't even understand it. We came from a news-oriented radio show, and the platform of YouTube seemed like a good place to move when the station went away, and that's how we end up here. Smash it with your iron rod. Smash it. So, Albert, I was just going to ask you then what we should do now. I have Friday Fabulous Florida. I also have big news out of Missouri because, well, speaking of abortion bans are on the ballot. And so we'll talk about that. I also have some sound, I believe. I have Kamala Harris in Nevada. Nevada seems to be slipping away. I've got a lot here, Albert. I need some direction, and you're the producer of this show.
We also have a super chat, the super stickers that we haven't gotten to. So,
Okay, so why don't I get to the super chats and super stickers, and then Friday Fabulous Florida, which is the palate cleanser on politics before we get to more politics in the next hour. So
yes,
we've done a lot of politics. I'll do some super stickers, super chats. We've got Friday Fabulous Florida, and then Kim's News, if we can shoehorn it in, and then more politics. That is the plan, and I'm pretty sure I can remember that is what the plan is. Okay, so Albert, Lucy McAllister, my favorite McAllister, and I'll remind you that Kim is a McAllister. Super sticker for $20.
Big shout out.
Big shout out, and thank you for that. We're a crowd-funded show. We wouldn't be here without people like Lucy McAllister, my favorite McAllister. No contendo. Elon is American Apartheid 2024, RSA in the USA. Yeah, I mean, that's the state of South Africa is what he's talking about. We'll see, certainly. Hassan says, after 2020, I completely tuned out of politics. Feels so good. Just sending this to say, Mr. Cenk, your nephew needs to sue Congressperson Torres for disinformation. Maybe. I don't know how to react to that, but yeah. Do you have something on that, Kim?
No, I'm not aware of it.
Mark, not rabid into politics after trying to keep my mental sanity. But regardless, if Trump wins or loses, people need to fight fascism, which will remain. Thank you, Hassan. Of course, that's true. I just think our ability and our instruments to fight it are very much influenced by who wins the election. No contendo. History repeats itself. The rich fool the poor whites to believe that the black and Latinos are the reason they are poor and hungry, and for fear of losing the hierarchy. I think that's true. Of course, you demonize a minority, blame a minority, and yeah, that is essentially a distraction. Of course, I think that's a good point. Ego brand money. Sounds like Mark Thompson show. Love you. Right. Who knew I had something in common? The Comstock law regarding abortion pills. I mean, meaning access, no contendo. Yeah, perhaps that that will be the thing. I think abortion pills very much will be the next agenda item, regardless of existing law. I mean, I think they've got the Supreme Court to support them on that. Here's to Martini palate cleanser at the Red Jack. He loves the Red Jack. That Harry Magnan. Red Jack is a great spot. If you're in San Francisco, you should check it out. The Red Jack Saloon. They are supporters from our earliest days when we were on the radio there. And right on, they continue to sell the Martini, which is a martini that spin off little money to us from everybody who orders a Martini. I think they spin off money pretty regularly anyway, right?
Yeah. It was the kamikaze that got me in trouble last night.
Oh, yeah. Kim was really hammered last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Albert, is that it?
That's it. Yeah.
All right. I do also want to recognize quickly and thank those who are Patreon members. We have one or two that I'd like to say hey to. And I'll remind Albert, maybe you can remind, there it is on the bottom of the screen. You can become a Patreon supporter. Really, we are a PBS model, so if you like this program and want to see it survive, why not consider being a Patreon or PayPal contributor? The Patreon community is really cool. Mary Lou, what up, Mary Lou?
Big shout out.
Big shout out for you joining our Patreon crew. Thank you, Mary Lou. Mary Lou Q. I don't want to give her last name just for her own privacy, but I like Mary Lou Q. Also, how about Gail M., a $25 member on Patreon?
Big shout out.
Yeah. She supports us every month with a $25 contribution. She is a new Patreon supporter, and I really do appreciate it. Wanted to give you guys special shouts and appreciate it so very much. In fact, I'll give you a thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I indeed am quite, I'm gloriously appreciative of all of your support. What's next, Albert? Is it Florida?
Quick Florida, then we have Kim's news coming up.
All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's a palate cleanser from politics. We look at a state that serves up the bizarre. You will vote for the following stories as to your favorite. This is Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
And we get right into it with a story about a Florida man slamming into a telephone pole while running from deputies who busted him for drugs during a traffic stop. He lives in Spring Hill, Florida. They caught their suspect when he smacked into a telephone pole while running away from a car that was filled with drugs. Scott Schwerian, he's 39, along with Heidi Reynolds, she's 36. And they're kind of a cute couple. We do rank their booking photos, and we always rank booking photos on a 10 scale. I'm going to give them solid 7s. Yeah. No?
No. I'm going 5.
Wow. B.A. Ware says 7, 8. Anyway,
wow.
Scott and Heidi were pulled over by deputies in the area of Toucan Trail in Spring Hill. Detectives say they saw a rolled cigar containing a green leafy substance that they identified as marijuana. You're not allowed to smoke marijuana in Florida? Is that right, Albert?
What?
I didn't know that. That's a good note for the future. According to the HCSO...
Where are my weed smokers at?
Well, here are 2 of them, apparently. They also found a pill box with the word Xanax written on it that had 11 alprazolam pills. Isn't that Xanax? And 2 separate baggies with fentanyl residue. Okay, now you got... But Xanax and pot, I don't get the problem. I mean, I don't think they should be driving with it, but can't they? Anyway. Deputies, apparently there's enough of this stuff that they probably think that they were dealing it. Is that it, Commish? I think so. Deputies say the backseat passenger, who was later identified as Reynolds, refused to provide detectives with her name identification, refused to exit the vehicle. After trying several times to get her to leave the vehicle voluntarily, she was escorted out and handcuffed. While searching the vehicle, deputies say they found 3 syringes filled with a clear liquid that later tested positive for methamphetamines. They also found a black container with 4 more marijuana cigarettes. Hey, guys, they're having a party. Relax. God, what is going on?
Rolled away everywhere, don't they?
I am just, well, I mean...
You just don't get it,
I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be too permissive. But then they got a new search warrant. But in this time, when deputies tried to arrest Schwerian, the guy there on the left, he ran away, but he ran right into a telephone pole, which stopped him cold. I mean, that's like something out of a cartoon. They arrested him, and they arrested both of them for trafficking in meth and marijuana possession and possession of paraphernalia. Wow.
Apparently he turned into like an accordion or something, like the old cartoons. And
yeah, right, exactly. He hits the pole, and then he's in an accordion. Exactly.
Meth and running don't mix. No.
I see. Pounds of cannabis, 20 grams or less of cannabis is a misdemeanor punishable by a maximum sentence of 1 year imprisonment and a maximum fine of $1,000. Possession of more than 20 grams, and you can end up with 25 years. Wow. God, these marijuana laws, we got to bring them. I get it, but I don't know. Interesting, though. Thank you for the research, B.A. Ware. A man brandishes a machete. This is political news and Florida news. A man brandishes a machete with Trump supporters at a Florida polling station.
What?
Yeah. He's 18 years old. He wasn't just motivated to vote. He was motivated to yank out his machete at a Florida polling station in an apparent attempt to harass voters who did not vote for Trump or support Donald Trump.
I'd be intimidated, I'd have to say. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Voter intimidation? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There he is. He seems happy. Caleb Williams is charged with aggravated assault on a person 65 years of age or older, an improper exhibition of a firearm or dangerous weapon. It is the Neptune Police Department and the chief there, Michael Key, who said at a news conference that during the course of the investigation, there is footage which shows the suspect committing an additional crime of voter intimidation or suppression within the designated voting location. So one felony of the third degree of voter intimidation or suppression added now to the charges today. And it remains to the chief an open investigation.
Good day, sir.
Yeah, there could be more to come. So this is a very troubling situation, and he's an 18-year-old.
Yeah, if you could zoom in, if I could zoom in a little bit, he still has his braces and his
Crazy.
Yeah.
He's a young man who's gone wrong.
The new voter, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and this is...
what he's got going here is a situation.
Well, the problem is that he's young and he's got a situation. 7 other people in the group are about 16 or 17. Young men are in grave danger from all the toxic alpha male BS online, says Eichelberg. And Eichelberg is correct. There is a discourse going on. There's an incubator going on online that feeds this sort of thing.
I mean, imagine being such a rabid Trump supporter at 18 years old that you would grab a machete, and if you see anyone coming near you that looks like a Harris supporter, you go after them like that. That's some scary stuff. Voting in Florida is no joke.
The situation escalating when he brandishes the machete in an aggressive, threatening posture and faced off against a 71-year-old woman and a 54-year-old woman as he held the machete over his head. We do have a booking photo of the young man, don't we, Albert? He's
People are asking how they knew that the voters that they were intimidating were Harris supporters. The article says I think they were carrying some kind of Harris signs or wearing something that indicated that they were not Trumpers.
I also think there is a general kind of, and this is completely speculation, but I would say that there is a kind
That's pure speculation.
Well, let me get it out before you. I think older people sometimes, the 71 and 54-year-old women, have just had enough, and they're unapologetic in their views, and they're like, hey, let us go through here. You don't need to, you know what I mean? I'm guessing that they don't take smack talk from some 18-year-old, and they shouldn't. That's my guess. But,
that's pure speculation.
Right, it is pure speculation. But booking photo, I'm going to give him an 8. He's a young guy,
Yeah, he's a good-looking guy. I concur. He's got some anger in his eyes, though.
Yeah, he does. He's got a lot, and he's a lot going on there, and none of it's good. And finally, this. A Florida man is recovering after surviving a shark attack at the same beach where he was bitten 10 years before.
What?
Oh,
yes.
Weird.
He's recovering and speaking out after surviving a shark attack on the Treasure Coast. He's been bitten on this beach, now bitten twice on the same beach. I got bit, he yelled. He thinks he was attacked by either a bull or a tiger shark. It's like the sharpest knife you could ever imagine, he says. It is like the sharpest knife times 10, he said. It goes right through you. Wow.
You hear people say if they were bitten once, I'm getting right back in the water. Like, this won't dissuade me from surfing and doing the things I love. Well, after you get bitten twice, do you have a different opinion on that? Because I think those sharks are coming after you.
Yeah. It's at some point, you're not out here to surf, are you?
No.
They would say. That is Florida, and we do have a poll going on those three stories. I'll remind you what they are. The Florida man slamming into a telephone pole as he ran from deputies. The dude brandishing the machete alongside other Trump supporters at a Florida polling station. And finally, the man who loves surfing and apparently has a thing for getting bitten by sharks, now recovering after a second shark attack in 10 years. We need to pick a favorite. We don't want to pick a favorite. I ask you, Kim.
Oh, I'm going to have to go machete voting.
Kim, how are you?
Machete is very hard to vote against. Albert, first, what is leading in the poll, please?
It is a tie between, I titled it the telephone pole druggies and Trump machete supporter. It's going back and forth. Right now, the Trump machete supporter is number one. I love the deja vu shark attack because I don't think surfing is the problem here. I think it's the beach, and I think he has a shark that has it out for him. It's personal for the shark. He should surf
I never thought of that. Sure.
Albert, thank you.
Same beach.
Yeah. It's same beach, and the shark very much could have been the same shark. I mean, they live a long time.
That's pure speculation.
All right, I know. I'm just saying. I go machete just because, like, that's the Florida thing.
Sure.
And shadow producer Calvin Wong says he tastes pretty good, Kim. So stalker shark, says Tammy. Yeah, kind of a sort of a stalking situation. Never thought of it that way. But that is Friday Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
Excited. We're going to get some news in from Kim, the culture blaster. Michael Snyder will be along on a Friday. Even the Friday before the election, we look at the entertainment scene with streaming, with movies, so we will do that. But I have some more politics presidential politics, before we get to Snyder's. So Kim's news and some of that, and then we'll get to the Culture Blaster. Smash the like button like a boss. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. A note before we jump into presidential politics: stocks are surging on Wall Street. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has been up more than 500 points, or over 500 points at times today. S&P 500 has been up 1%. NASDAQ has been up 200 points on the first day of the new month.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Having economic problems, are we? Both presidential candidates heading into the final weekend before Election Day. After spending yesterday in the Southwest, both Vice President Harris and former President Trump will campaign in the Rust Belt today. Harris will be holding a pair of rallies in Wisconsin. Meanwhile, former President Trump will hold an event in Michigan before heading to Milwaukee for a rally. Donald Trump is filing a lawsuit against CBS News seeking $10 billion over a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris. Trump's legal team filed the lawsuit yesterday, claiming the network edited the footage to cast Harris in a positive light. The lawsuit says CBS participated in partisan and unlawful acts of election and voter interference and substantial news distortion when it aired that interview.
That case is going nowhere, but it makes the point. It gets the story into the news cycle, like it just has happened here. And so he makes the point. They're biased. That's really what that's all about.
I mean, they edit every presidential interview that they do.
They edit every interview. I mean, It was a profile on Harris, and they interviewed. And this just in, Trump was invited to do one.
Right.
Every election cycle, both candidates typically do that 60 Minutes profile. I'm not saying that it should be a part of American tradition, but I'm saying that it's not some huge departure for them to do one with Kamala Harris because they were going to do one with Trump. He pulled out of that. He pulled out of the debate. He's scared. He knows that there's no there there. There really isn't. His supporters hear these. They're not even platitudes. They're just like these statements about, I'm going to, end the Ukraine war in a day. I'm going to make the economy great again. She's an idiot. She's low IQ. And they just hear this stuff. And then they fill in the details on, yeah, he's going to do all of this stuff. They don't actually follow up. If you did a 60-minute sit down, they would actually follow up and ask you about certain policy strategies. And of course, he has none. He doesn't even know how tariffs would really work. And so this failed businessman who has pursued this con successfully, he's a brilliant con man that way, he doesn't want to sit down with any media outlet that is actually going to query him in such a way that he's going to have to show the math. So he sits down with Tucker Carlson, with the people on that Fox and Friends in the morning, and he just gets shoulder rubs from all of them. And that's really the plan. And it's worked out for him, and the media's kind of let him get away with it. So
now, if a journalist asks him a real question, he considers that to be rude.
Yeah, and he pivots,
National
like
Association of Black Journalists. Yeah,
like a good con man, he pivots to whatever. He'll pivot to attack, as you say. It's rude. Anyway, yeah.
It was a rough Halloween in Florida. 2 people are dead, 6 are injured after this Halloween night shooting in Orlando. A 17-year-old suspect is in custody. Police say no word yet on a motive. The matter is under investigation, and they're still gathering information there. There is a growing number of wealthy Americans planning to leave the United States regardless of who wins this election. That's the bottom line of a survey by Arton Capital, which advises the wealthy on immigration programs. It found 53% of American millionaires saying they are more likely to leave after the election, no matter who wins the White House.
What? Who did that survey?
Arton Capital.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess they're just done with America. Make your money here and check out.
It's not easy to leave America with all your money. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I have to look into this Arton Capital.
Yeah, you
They
check
are
that.
a global citizenship financial advisory service firm based in Montreal, Canada. Oh, okay, well, there you go.
Were we all fleeing to Canada?
Yeah, they're trying to bring people to Canada. Are you Arton Capital? I don't know. Anyway.
Clocks will go back 1 hour this Sunday, so don't forget daylight savings time ends at 2 a.m. November 3rd, starts again in March of next year. That means an extra hour of sleep for us this weekend. Only Hawaii and Arizona don't observe daylight savings time. There's a big parade planned for today for the world champions of baseball. Sorry, Albert. The Dodgers won the World Series against the New York Yankees Wednesday night, taking the series 4-1, claiming their 8th title. The parade started at 11 a.m. Pacific time in front of Los Angeles City Hall. Even though Dodgers won the 2020 World Series, it is their first victory parade since 1988 because of COVID. They couldn't traditionally celebrate in that way because of COVID restrictions, so now they get the parade as well.
Albert, are you going to grudgingly, even though you're a Giants fan, tip the cap to the Los Angeles Dodgers who defeated the Yankees? They vanquished the Yankees. They made it look easy, Albert. You don't feel they're deserving of a little love from you? I mean, just as a good sport? No?
No.
Albert, no.
He's not even going to comment.
Albert's left the building. He said, I'll be right back.
I'm back now. I heard you talking about the Giants and the Dodgers. So
yeah.
Anything Dodgers related, I'm unsubscribing. I'm completely not paying attention to baseball.
You don't want to even just grudgingly offer them congratulations, Albert, just as a kind of a member of the baseball community. Don't you think you should do that, Albert? Wouldn't this be this is part of your therapy? Don't you think you should a little bit?
Yeah, they've won 1.5 titles the past 2020. That was like a COVID year. That was COVID year. This one was a legit title, so I'll commend them from that. That's a real title.
Albert does come through. This is.
I will disavow all of 2020 though. That doesn't.
That was a heavy lift though to get that. Congratulations, good stuff. All right.
A personal correction. I did add an S at the end of daylight savings, and it is not with an S. Daylight saving.
What?
Correct myself there.
Wow.
It was wrong. It was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Yeah, it's all true.
Yeah.
Adult film actress Stormy Daniels was honored by hundreds of witches as part of the Halloween festivities in Salem, Massachusetts.
Wow.
I've never seen anything like it.
Wow, that's exciting.
Apparently, Daniels has been a practicing witch since childhood and was extremely excited to be honored. Who knew?
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
That's exciting. Wow.
The announcement of her appearance was not made until the day before Halloween in an effort to prevent possible disruptions to the event. Daniels wore a black outfit and a pointed hat as she accepted the first ever Salem Witches Woman of Power award.
Wow.
Oh my God.
I know. It's exciting. A woman of power.
Yeah. And if you're looking toward Election Day, it's not all about the voting, Mark. No.
It's not?
There's some freebies coming your way and some discounts for Election Day. As a matter of fact, companies are offering special promotions. Uber and Lyft will each offer discounts for voters looking for a ride to their nearest polling location. The ride-sharing companies offering 50% discounts and up to $10 on their trip to the polls. So there you go. Car rental company Hertz giving customers a free day when they rent a car for 2 or more days through November 5th. And Krispy Kreme Donuts is handing out a free original glazed donut at participating stores on Tuesday. See, you can
that's kind of cool.
cast your
This is
vote,
great.
get a donut.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow.
Or maybe cast your vote, come home and drink your Tenuta Why Are You Yelling Red? Because
there you go. Yeah.
you might need it.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah.
This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards in Livermore. It is a beautiful winery, beautiful scenery, a great place to go visit. They have beer on tap at the winery. It has to be the only winery that welcomes beer drinkers as well.
Yeah.
And they have some great wines, so many different varietals, including the Mark Thompson Why Are You Yelling Red, which is my
Yes.
favorite. The Hey, which one
Why
of
are you
you is
yelling?
Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio?
Yeah.
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Right.
They've got some more grape stomping dates in November, a really fun event. And whatever you find on the website, whatever you find at the winery, whether you want to book an event there, what have you, you get 10% off across the board if you call or email them and say, smash it with your iron rod.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Man.
All it takes, 925-699-4576. The number, rich@tenutavineyard.com, the email address to check in, see what events are going on, and see what the wine, they've got on offer on the website, which is tenutawinery.com.
Man.
Yeah.
Love that Tenuta. Love the scene.
Isn't it beautiful? Look at that.
I really do.
Yeah.
I really love it out there. I was there. Spent the afternoon with Courtney, just kind of cruising. Got a tour of the winery.
What can you tell us about the scene?
Bought a couple of cases of wine, Larry.
What can you tell us about the scene?
I didn't. Maybe I had a glass or two. There, they have a nice little meeting area on back.
What can you tell us about the scene?
Yeah, loved it. Tenuta, Tenuta. Yeah, Larry.
What can you tell us about the scene?
I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
Oh, girl, baby girl, don't even play.
What?
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Albert, thank you.
I did everything right and they indicted me. I misspoke. I stand corrected. My words upset so many people. My bad. I'm sorry.
Y'all can all go to hell and I'm going back to Texas.
Have you ever been a member of the Chinese Communist Party?
That was very inappropriate.
My beautiful Christians, I love you, Christians. I'm not Christian. I love you. I only like people that like me.
Put that coffee down.
There's never been anything like this.
Right on, everybody. Our election special is coming up, of course, on election night. There will likely be no winner. I mean, this is such a remarkably close election, made more remarkable by the fact that I think there just is, like one legit candidate who has a history of public service. You may not agree with a lot of her perspective and prospective strategies moving forward, but I think you'd have to admit she, I think, has a considered approach. And you have another guy who's just trying to stay out of prison. So we still have this incredibly close election. And so election night, I don't think we'll have a winner, especially given just the nature of the way votes are being counted and likely contested. But we will have our election night special. So if you're watching us from the East Coast, this will be 11:30 at night until 12:30 at night, or 12:30 in the morning, 11:30 to 12 And if you're watching in the West or participating in the West or just listening in the West, 8:30 to 9:30. In that hour, we hope to have John Rothman, Pat Thurston, many of those people who passed through our world, Michael Shure, who you've just seen.
Nikki
In the
Maduro's
first
coming.
hour, Nikki Maduro's coming. That's really cool.
Gil
So we
Gross.
have a lot of the old KGO folks. Gil Gross, who I think is just special when it comes to politics and political analysis, and more. I'm leaving out some people here just because I'm...
David K. Johnston. David
Thank you.
Katz.
And David Katz and David K. Johnston. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's really going to be something special, and it'll be...
I've never seen anything like it.
Right. Well, people are saying there's nothing in our history.
There is nothing in our history that quite compares to this.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever put something like this together that I've ever seen.
Well, I don't know about
We've
that.
never seen anything like it before.
Guys,
Have you ever seen anything like this?
Okay, the point is, it is going to be special, and it is going to be an hour, and we're doing it because you asked for it. Our community asked for it. So I think it'll be, and again, you don't have to register for it. You don't have to, we're just going to have it, and you can join. If you hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever we have a video, and this will be like one of those that will be live on election night. There'll be a lot of live stuff, I'm guessing, on election night, but I think this should be a special visit with all those people who we just mentioned. Now, Albert, I thought I sent you on the latest... we have two things I kind of wanted to take a look at. Kim put something in there on Harris in Nevada. You like that?
Did you see she was wearing mom jeans at the event? You don't see a presidential candidate in jeans very often.
Yeah.
She wore her jeans to Vegas.
Yeah.
And J-Lo was there as well.
Now, do you like J-Lo, or do you like, is J-Lo in that? I see J-Lo, the J-Lo clip as well. You want to see J-Lo, or do you want to see Kamala Harris in Nevada, or do you want to see both?
Let's start with Kamala.
All right, Kamala Harris, please, Albert, if you would. Kamala Harris going to Nevada. Nevada, sadly, for Democrats, may be a lost cause, but clearly Kamala Harris is making a play there. So here was Kamala Harris in Nevada.
And it is my pledge to you that if you give me the chance to fight on your behalf as president, there is nothing in the world that will stand in my way of fighting for you. For the people. And look, we know who Donald Trump is. Because we all know he is not someone who is thinking about how to make your life better. And this is someone who is increasingly unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and he's out for unchecked power. And in less than 90 days, either he or I will be sitting in the Oval Office. And listen, here's what we can imagine, right? We've all seen on TV, you've seen the Oval Office, but here's the thing. Just, we have to get the word out to help people even just visually imagine what that day will be. Because if elected, Donald Trump on day one would walk into that office with an enemies list. When I am elected, I will walk in with a to-do list on behalf of you. And at the top of my list is bringing down your cost of living. That will be my focus every single day as president.
I would thank you. I would say that that's actually true. I mean, I think he is really bent on revenge, and basically the people around him are bent on dismantling government. So he'll be only concerned with avenging what he feels are his many grievances with political rivals, and those around him really just want to dismantle government and take power and basically reshape American government for their own interests. That really is what's going to happen. Now, how about J-Lo? Can you give me a little J-Lo? The celebrities, the singers, even the wrestlers, I mean, you know, they've turned out in pretty good numbers for Kamala Harris. And this is J-Lo in Las Vegas speaking about the fact that she is voting for Kamala Harris and wants us to vote for Kamala Harris. And she's, oh yeah, we can't, the music might hurt us. She is Jenny from the block, I'll remind you. So, you know, when she
talked a lot about Puerto Rico last night.
Yeah, of course.
Her parents are from Puerto Rico. She said they are Americans. She really was inspiring, especially toward the end of her remarks, talking about what voting meant to her, what America means to her. She was pretty good.
Trump has stars too, says John. Kid Rock, Hulk Hogan, and that pillow guy. Yeah, I forgot that pillow guy is
Dr. Phil. Don't forget Dr. Phil.
Oh yeah, Dr. Phil is a big Trump guy. Right. It's wild, huh? You can't bring down the cost of living, says Edward Lee. Minimum wage is set. It's only going to go up. Plus the devaluing of our fiat toilet paper. Oh, which is, you're talking about our currency. Yeah, absolutely right. Well, I don't disagree with some of those things. I think you can address cost of living issues, though. But I agree with some of what Edward would say there. This is that J-Lo?
That's J-Lo.
Buenas noches, Las Vegas.
Buenas noches, Las Vegas. Hey.
Now, you guys know I'm no stranger to this town. No, I've been on stage here many, many times. Too many times to count. But this is the most important stage I've ever been on. And let me tell you, it has never felt the way it does tonight. It has nothing to do with me and everything to do with you. The energy in here is just electric. Can you guys feel it? Can you feel it? It's amazing. The election is just 5 days away, and there's so much at stake. The choices facing America now are monumental. And you guys have made this place a city where dreams come true, where people from all walks of life have planted a flag in hopes of creating a better future for themselves and their families. And you are the ones who are going to send the message that Nevada is Harris country.
There you go. All right. Thank you, Albert. I always love a little Jenny from the Nevada block.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could quickly give me the Cheney cut that I sent you. This is quick, but this is the
I have it
Trump
in there as well.
Yeah, so we have it, and we discussed it before. And this is we'll give you a little bit of what Trump said, and then the kind of reaction to what he said. You have to go back a little bit. I think it's at the top of the cut. You know the time code should be on there. The one I sent you. But it's yeah. Here you. I don't know if this is the one. Okay, but go for it. I don't know about this. Go for it. Okay.
Both about this. Donald Trump keeps talking about the enemy within. Now he's gone a step further. Listen.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face.
Donald Trump is talking about political rival Liz Cheney. He just called for executing her. Does this move people or what?
Yeah, as noted here, stop for a second. Again, this really is, what he said is awful, but he didn't call for executing her, okay? No. And this is one, and I thought, I'm so glad Cenk made this point in the first hour. This is what we do, you know. But this is a Republican who responds, and you'll hear it just in a second, and he responds to now what is the proposition which the anchor has offered, which is that Donald Trump has called for the execution of Liz Cheney. But again, that's not really what he said. He's kind of saying, hey, she's a war hawk, but let's get her in a war with a bunch of weapons pointed at her and see whether she's really all about war.
Which is really rich from a guy who's a draft dodger and, counted on bone spurs to get him out of war. Really?
Yeah. Thank you. And bone spurs, which were completely concocted and invented. He couldn't even tell you what foot the actual bone spurs were on. Okay. Go ahead, Albert. Play the rest of the cut if you would, please.
I'm sickened by it, Sarah, to be honest with you. Since July, since that first assassination attempt, we have heard Republicans, my fellow Republicans, excoriate Democrats for their rhetoric and saying that the rhetoric was the cause of that assassination attempt and then the second assassination attempt. And here you have a former president of the United States, and potentially the next president of the United States, threatening a political rival in Liz Cheney. If you want to be president, act like you want to be president and actually bring respect to the office. And I usually don't get that wound up, but listening to that just really, really, really bothers me.
I just want to quickly put on the screen, Liz Cheney has responded to this. And if we can put her words up on the screen, she says, this is how dictators destroy free nations. He is literally putting that out there and threatening Liz Cheney.
It's unconscionable.
What is this message?
It's unconscionable. I don't know how Republican leaders, many of whom served with Liz Cheney and at one point considered her a colleague and friends, cannot denounce this. It is dangerous. It's escalatory. He's also already called for war, like tribunals against her when he's back as president. It is so unpresidential, reckless, and dangerous, and it needs to be universally condemned.
Joining me now.
Okay,
is
that's
Trump
good. Thank you. I
surrogate.
will say this. He has, to be fair, that is true. He's called for military tribunals to be assembled and for those who have opposed him to face those military tribunals. So while it's also true that he didn't say she should face a firing squad, that part is hyperbole. It is equally true that Trump has called for these tribunals and for people to be dragged in front of them. And that is, that's straight up fascist craziness out of Donald Trump.
You would think a guy that narrowly missed getting shot in the head, right? Had that bullet whiz right past his ear, nicking his ear, what have you, would be the last person to say someone should have guns trained on their face to prove that they're somehow, not a coward. It's just, wow. What a thing to say.
Unclear, really, again, what he was saying, but he was,
Well, I think he was trying to say she'd never served and that since she's something of a hawk, he thinks that she should have some type of battle experience before she talks about sending people to war. I kind of think that was where he was going with it, but the point was made in a really awful fashion.
At the same time,
The Mark Thompson Show.
The co-chair of Donald Trump's transition team promoting the theory that vaccines cause autism, saying that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. hopes to get, quote, data through a Trump administration to have vaccines pulled, quote, off the market. The billionaire CEO of investment bank Cantor Fitzgerald, longtime friend of Donald Trump's, said that vaccines are, quote, not proven to be safe. Said that he'd recently been schooled on vaccines by RFK Jr. And Kennedy is saying that he would have significant influence over public health policy if Trump wins the White House. The billionaire donor, Lutnick, from Cantor Fitzgerald said, quote, so I spent 2.5 hours this week with Bobby Kennedy Jr., and it was the most extraordinary thing. Because let's face it, we've all heard on the news all sorts of snarky comments about him. But vaccines, he said, why do you think they're safe? There's no product liability anymore. They're not proven, he said. He was challenged by Caitlin Collins on CNN. She said, they are proven. Kids get them and they're fine. And he said, why do you think they're fine? And that was sort of where it sat. He went on to say that Kennedy wants vaccines pulled off the market. Kennedy hopes for a Trump administration getting data to accomplish that. And Lutnick saying these things are unsafe. The idea somehow that there is questions around vaccines is, I think, based on the vaccine, depending on the specific vaccine, something you can have a legitimate question about. I also think that obviously there's a vaccine schedule with kids, and the kids are protected against a lot of very brutal, frankly, mortally dangerous diseases as a result of vaccines. Talk to victims of polio. Talk to people. Talk to smallpox victims. Talk to those who have been inoculated against so many things that can destroy lives. So this idea that you get rid of vaccines under Bobby Kennedy Jr. controlled CDC, it's scary. Professor RFK Jr., scholar of the Dark Ages, says thermodynamics. Exactly. Really odd. Kennedy told supporters earlier this week that Trump had promised to give him, quote, control over key public health agencies, like the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The key, he said, this is a quote, is that President Trump has promised me control of the public health agencies. He cited the Department of Health and Human Services, the Food and Drug Administration, and the National Institutes of Health.
That's really scary.
It's just wild that you turn the keys of that car over to somebody who's not even a doctor. I mean, it just is pretty crazy. But meantime, in New Mexico, I thought if you go, Albert, into the rundown, you see Trump in New Mexico. This was pretty wild. Trump did say the quiet part out loud about why he's campaigning in New Mexico. He said, I'm only here to pander to Latinos. Why would you possibly say that?
Because as you said earlier, he has no filter. Whatever he's thinking comes flying out of his face hole. Honestly.
It really is wild. But if you can hunt that down, Albert, while you do, you got it? Okay, go ahead. This is Trump in New Mexico.
So I'm here for one simple reason. I like you very much, and it's good for my credentials with the Hispanic or Latino community. You know, on the East Coast, they like being called Hispanics. You know this? On the West Coast, they like being called Latinos. So, poll, give me a free poll. You know, I don't have to spend $300,000. First is going to be Latinos, next is Hispanics, right?
So that is Trump in New Mexico. And again, there is a strange fact, and then I'll get to the culture blaster. And the fact is essentially that there is a thriving, robust part of the Latino community that is supporting Donald Trump. And the reason I say it's surprising is that he is so clear about articulating a plan to deport so many Latinos. Now you can say, well, Mark, those are people who are in this country with questionable legality. He's extended through Stephen Miller plans to deport those who arguably are in the country legally. So you begin to get into a gray area that I think is sort of scary and really reflects an open bigotry toward the Latino community. So when I see that, it's in the shadow of that I look at all of these Latinos who are voting for Donald Trump. It's quite extraordinary to me. Now, there's also a pretty good chunk of people who are sort of the view, they may not quite say it this way, but look, I'm in, let's put the velvet rope back up. You know, my family's here. They may be second generation Latino. So you end up in this place where you do understand, and the Cuban community, for example, that is a very large politically active community in Florida, say, they are strongly informed by Catholicism, and they feel that sort of like the rollback of Roe was a good thing. And you kind of then can do the arithmetic as to why they're supporting. But in general, I really don't get the kind of support that Donald Trump is getting from minorities. Just don't get it. What do I have to do? The Culture Blaster is getting set up. He comes in with a bunch of beverages. He's got a coffee. He's got a water. He's got, I mean, you know, you are like Mariah Carey. You come in with a bunch of stuff, What do you? All right, Michael. You're just Michael gets settled. Albert, is there anything I need to attend to before I get to the Culture Blaster?
I'm just setting up my stuff for him.
Oh yeah, for the Culture Blaster, Albert has to get
we
set
have
up
a couple
too.
super stickers and super chats here.
Spencer Jaffe, I want to say a big shout out.
Big shout
Spencer,
out.
thank you very much. Everybody who jumps on and is part of our show in supporting us financially, it does really help. It helps us make payroll. So thank you for the super sticker, Spencer. You've been here since the very beginning. And anybody else? Peter Newton, my mother passed away a year ago tomorrow, but she would have worked for Harris, hometown VP Walls, and Prop 139 for abortion access in Arizona. Cheers, Mom, to Peter Newton's mom, a $10 contribution. Wow, Peter, thank you. And to your mother's memories, sir. Wow, really cool to have you on board from Arizona.
Can I throw out a quick story?
Mm-hmm.
It's this one. This just popped up. Ted Cruz's Senate campaign has apparently spent quite a chunk of change at beauty spas over the years, and it could mean that they run afoul of campaign finance laws, because you're not supposed to spend the money on the personal items like, beauty spas.
Oh.
Shared hair, haircuts and nail manicures and all these things.
Sure, of course.
It was obviously a mistake, and in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it.
Oh, yeah, that was him talking about when he went to Mexico when it was getting cold, and yeah.
We talked earlier about whether Texas could,
Hey, look, we don't have school. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
could possibly flip blue. Stuff like this right before an election doesn't look good.
That's true. I mean, Cruz really he's been playing the margins there in Texas for a while, but it's absolutely true that was it Al Franken who said about Ted Cruz, I was Ted Cruz's best friend in the Senate, and I hate Ted Cruz. It was a way of saying nobody likes Ted Cruz. I think he actually preceded it by saying nobody likes Ted Cruz. Amin Kali. Thank you, Amin, with a $10 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. Thank you very, very much, Amin. So appreciate your support. This is an extremist blue echo chamber, says Joe de Cohe. Joe de Cohe, this is an extremist blue echo chamber. I know, ain't it cool? I love it. Well, I mean, I have to say, I think we do have a bias. I'm open about my bias, but I think
we also tell the truth. We didn't say that what Trump said was, calling for the execution of Liz Cheney. We told the truth about it. It's not what he said.
I think we call it pretty. I mean, I have an expressed bias. Okay, I'm a tree hugger, so I'm an environmentalist. So I like those things that are protective of the planet. That said, after that, I think I light up, the left and the right. It's just that the right has now become in the thrall of this man, Donald Trump, and it's absolutely, it's inexplicable to me. I don't understand what you guys see in him. I mean, really, you want to give the keys to the car to Grandpa Trump? Wow. I mean, you have to really, thank you. RJ Dunn is right. This is extreme. Oh, sweet summer child, get out more. Exactly. Knock around YouTube some more. You want extremism? You got it everywhere. I don't think this show is some extremist echo chamber. I really don't. It's tiring being the voice of reason. Thank you, Champagne. You get it.
Do you know who I am?
Yeah.
I'm kind of a big deal.
Ashley, with the coolest name, among the coolest names of our regular listeners and viewers, a super sticker for $20. What up,
Big
Ashley?
shout out.
Appreciate that. Really, really cool. All right. Without any, thank you, Ashley, and thank you. I'd like to say thank you, Sesame.
Thank you so much.
Michael, do you have anything before we formally begin your segment, sir?
No, I'm just happy I'm here considering the tumult of last night, but, we'll get to that in any event.
Oh, the tumult of last night. All right.
I'm glad I'm here.
All right. Well, we got to start somewhere. You're glad. I'm glad. Kim's glad. Albert's glad. There's a lot of glad going on. You want a louder headphone now? Is that what you're saying? Is that about right?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just want everything to be just perfect for you, Culture Blaster. All right, everyone. Smash the like button like a boss, and let's keep it going.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It's the Friday before the election, and he comes with something that is a palate cleanser to politics. He is, when it comes to music and movies and streaming, the man who shows us the light. He comes and goes on a rainbow. He's the magnificent Culture Blaster, everyone, Michael Snyder. Michael, hello.
Hello, Mark. Hello, Kim. Hello, Albert. And wherever you are, hi, Tony. And mostly, hello, Mark Thompson Show audience. Over 50,000 subscribers. And I just want to say right here and now, if each subscriber sent me $1, just $1. Anyway, so it's All Saints Day, a big deal. I mean, we sinners have the rest of the year to ourselves.
Oh, there you go. Right, I forgot. Yeah.
And last night,
every day is All Sinner Day, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Except today.
Except today. I am back in Los Angeles after being up at my place in SF for a while, and due to the travel, I'll get to it in a moment. I wasn't able to cover some of the bigger movies, but last night I went to the West Hollywood Halloween street party. Oh my God. You know, all I'm going to say, and you know what the neighborhood's like, everyone there was on daylight savings time.
Yeah, West Hollywood, very gay.
And the costumes were fantastic. You got to remember, this is Los Angeles, this is Hollywood. Hair, makeup, and costume people are at the top of their professions, and oh my God, the things I saw. And if anyone follows me on social media, I will be posting a few photos from my escapades last night. I am, of course, at Instagram at Mike the Knife 123, and you can catch me on Facebook.
Mike the Knife 1 was taken, so you had to go to 1, 2, 3.
I'm just doing a countdown, Mark, in reverse.
I will say that Michael makes a very good point. When you're in, this is really something you notice. When you're in L.A., Hollywood, whatever, all of the front yards that have tombstones, and they go to another level. They have now tombstones and fog machines and these animatronics. I went to a party last night with these massive, that might have been 10-foot figures in the front yard that were speaking. Okay, they were saying, "I'll haunt you in your dreams."
No. Those were fired executives from Hollywood. those people there, they really think they're going to get revenge.
I'd never seen anything like it until I got here.
Well, I'll just say quickly before
I've never seen anything like it.
Before we get to the meat of the matter, I do want to point out that like the annual candy cane lanes that spring up across the country, and there's one I know in, I guess, out near the Woodland Hills area. There are Halloween lanes in Los Angeles, and I know there's some crazy and beautiful stuff up in Sierra Madre. Didn't have the time because I was commuting from San Francisco, and I bring this up again because it's impacted today's show. 3 movies.
Are you apologizing for somehow becoming distracted by your travel and not being able to? What's happening right now, Kim?
Well,
I think
I'll explain this.
The Culture Blaster is over-explaining. I don't understand.
No, I think it's important because people have a certain level of expectation, and I'm just going to say that the movies here, the new Robert Zemeckis thing, reuniting him with Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, his collaborators on the now somewhat maligned Forrest Gump, have returned as an ensemble creatively in a movie called Here. And here's an interesting point, and I say this again to put context on it. The only chance people in Los Angeles had to see it were if they reached out on their own to publicists and said, "Oh, I want to attend this American Cinematheque showing." There was no invitation sent out.
I see.
I don't believe there was a screening at all in San Francisco. But again, I was in SF when they had that Cinematheque thing. And then Juror Number 1, the new Clint Eastwood directed movie starring Nicholas Hoult, which is supposed to be pretty good. I think they may have had one screening in LA last week. I'm in San Francisco, and now I'm back here.
I see. So you're explaining sort of some holes in your typical report. Trevor Starr, who is in Hollywood, which is why he calls himself Trevor Starr in Hollywood, says this is a classic Michael Snyder time waster.
Well,
right
I'm
now.
just, again, context. Okay,
right, let's get started,
Trevor,
please,
let's
sir.
get into it because, time is short. We'll kick off things, and, we're kind of scrambling right now. A Real Pain is a new movie that was written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg. He did another film prior to this that was pretty decent, kind of an interpersonal investigation into, modern American dysfunction. And we kind of have that here with A Real Pain. It is, in fact, about two cousins, and they're very, very different. Jesse Eisenberg is an uptight achiever who lives in New York City with his wife and son, and is very proud of them. And he works in some sort of marketing deal, and he's doing pretty well for himself. And his cousin, who has been, as the character says, bonded to the hip with the Jesse Eisenberg character for many years, is kind of a slacker, kind of a, ne'er-do-well in a way, but so charming. And he's played by Kieran Culkin, one of the very talented Culkin brothers, one of whom, of course, is MIA, the one that started this whole Culkin, acting family situation.
Oh, Mac is gone?
Well, no, he's around. He's
around. He's doing.
But I mean, I think he dressed up as Joe Burrow from the Bengals.
He's very nice, Michael. I played cards with him a few times.
He strikes me as a lovely individual. I think he made his bones.
Don't disparage Macaulay Culkin.
How dare you say I would do that?
Get back to the review.
Anyway, so Kieran plays the kind of ne'er-do-well Benji, and David and Benji are reeling in the I guess we call it the aftermath of their beloved grandmother's death. And this grandmother escaped Poland during the Holocaust through, as the David character says, a million miracles. She somehow got out. And Benji was particularly close to her. And to honor her, and with money she left to them, they decided to take a Holocaust tour of Poland. Now, this sounds very similar to a recent Stephen Fry, Lena Dunham movie where a father and daughter do that very same thing. But this is a much better film. It's a very engaging dramedy as the two cousins start to deal with long simmering issues, the fact that Benji is so self-destructive, the jealousy that David has for Benji's charm, and also the disdain Benji has kind of for what's happened to David over the course of his life, how he's focused on life and family and work. And I really was impressed with this. And we talk about that previous film about Fry and Dunham and their characters going to Warsaw and to Poland in search of their past. And the same thing happens in this movie, only it just works so much better. And I got to say kudos to Eisenberg, who wrote and directed it. It's largely shot in Poland, and it really kind of resonated with me. I thought it was lovely. It's in select theaters right now. And, Culkin, by the way, runs away with the film, and he makes you so uneasy as you're watching him because of his own dysfunction and the fact that he, has this ability to get people to like him. And then on a dime,
so he
he'll do
plays
something,
the charmer, yeah.
Yeah, but on the dime, he'll turn and get incredibly preachy and resentful. It's really a beautifully executed performance. And
written by Eisenberg, as you said,
and directed by him, and it is in select theaters, and
that is called A Real Pain. What else do you have for us, Michael?
Okie dokie,
great culture
Smokey.
blaster.
Let's move on to a movie that you'll know that I wanted to see. It's called Absolution, and the reason I wanted to see it is that it stars. Come on.
It's Liam.
It's Liam Neeson, and he's back
it.
again. Liam Neeson lately has been, he's been cranking them out for a while as America's elderly action star, as the other. He's from
he's
the
not
UK.
as elderly as
Clint Eastwood,
Harrison Ford,
and Harrison Ford. But and actually he's from the UK. I think he's Irish. Is that right?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Anyway, but in any event, he plays these American hard men that come up against the how shall we put this? The weight of age upon a man who's made his living being physical, being violent, being the strong man. And in this case, actually, this is very similar to a recent movie of his where he was having kind of oncoming Alzheimer's or something, and he had to keep dealing with loss of memory and still execute, pardon the expression, his job. And the same sort of thing goes down in Absolution. But in this case, this man also has family issues, and he wants to reconnect with his family as his brain is sort of, taking a hike. And he's also trying to hold on to his job in the criminal underworld. And one of the nice things about this movie, it's, by the way, directed by a Scandinavian director who's done some good work, Hans Petter Moland, and the screenwriter, Tony Gayton. He comes up with something interesting. This is not a great film, but there is something incredibly seductive about watching Liam Neeson go through his paces. I don't know what it is, but
this feels different than the others, or you feel the same?
It's a little different. It's a little deeper. It's
just different enough. You're saying?
Yeah, it is. It's a little deeper. So this guy's trying to kind of connect with his family, but obviously he still thinks he has the skills to continue to work.
A special set of skills, as I recall.
A special set of skills. And one of the nice things about the movie are the presence of some good supporting actors, including Ron Perlman as the boss that he reports to. Big hulking Ron Perlman. Love the guy. Nice performance by young Frankie Shaw as his daughter, who's incredibly resentful. I thought it was not a waste of time. Again, don't put it on your poster, folks. Not a waste of time. Michael Snyder, The Mark Thompson Show. I know it's, again, I damn with faint praise occasionally, but sometimes you just want to watch Liam Neeson,
Great. I love it. So it's in theaters or streaming?
It is, in fact, wide in theaters today. And again, it's not great. There are better movies, like Taken is so much better, for instance. The thing that launched his career as an elderly action hero.
Sure.
But there were things about this that I like. It may be a little too moody and slow.
Sounds like Taken 3 is what Justin is saying.
Well, I don't know. They're not taking the daughter anyway. Give me back my daughter.
Right.
No, I want my daughter back is the actual thing here. She's sort of alienated from him. She's not necessarily in danger. Okay. People say, Michael, where are the comedies?
Right. I need laughter is what Ricky O'Bear literally says.
Ricky O'Bear always reaches out. And thank you, Ricky O'Bear, for listening and prodding me occasionally. And I just, I call him like I see him, number one. Number two, I'm dealt a set of cards every week, and sometimes you
don't choose this life.
No, I don't. It just comes to me.
You just deal with this life as it comes.
So here we go.
What is
Ricky,
it? Yes. What do you have a comedy for?
The Gutter.
All
and
right.
I totally enjoyed The Gutter. Now imagine if Spike Lee made silly, surreal comedies. And that's kind of The Gutter. It's about a guy named Walt who is sort of a ne'er-do-well. He can't do anything quite right. He's very eager and enthusiastic. He can't hold on to a job. And he finds a job because a very sympathetic bowling alley owner, even though he's clearly out of his mind, a bowling alley owner says, okay, I'll give you a job. And she, by the way, is pretty wonderful. She's played by Kim Fields, of all people.
Oh, sure. She's great.
Here's a fact of life. She's still good.
I get it.
And he, while there, runs into a lush who used to be a professional bowler, played by the great and funny Darcy Carden, who was so wonderful on The Good Life, the TV program. And their interactions are fantastic. And it turns out that our boy, Walt, again, a slacker to the nth degree, is an amazing bowler. He has this uncanny ability to throw strikes. Comes out of nowhere. He's never bowled before. So Darcy Carden's character, Skunk, says, I'm going to manage you. We're going to make money. We have to do it anyway because, unfortunately, our friend and supporter, the woman who has hired you, the woman, by the way, again, played by the lovely Kim Fields, Vicky, can't afford to hold on to the bowling alley. So we're going to earn money so she keeps the alley. It turns out that his ultimate foe is going to be a retired legendary champion, Linda, the Crusher Curson, played by Susan Sarandon.
Oh, wow.
So we're talking about high-end.
That's great.
Darcy Carden, Susan Sarandon.
It's funny already.
And right, throwing another log on the fire is the fact that the pro bowling TV commentator who is following this year's bowling tour and is amazed at this guy, Walt, and of course skeptical, is played by none other than Paul Reiser. So you have a very talented cast, and let's just single out Shemak Moore as Walt, who is willing to do anything ridiculous to get a laugh. And I think ridiculous is a key word here because The Gutter does descend into the ridiculous, but damn, I thought it was funny. And he's out there on the bowling tour trying to make money to save Vicky's lane. And when Linda, the Crusher Curson, finds out that this guy is also breaking her records, she decides to come out of retirement and take him on. And, she's smoking a cig and like throwing strike. Let me just say, it was funny. Isaiah Lester and Yasir Lester, who I assume are brothers. I'm not sure, but Yasir wrote it. They directed, Yasir wrote it. And I thought that I'll be honest, The Gutter was funny, and it is in limited theaters, but it's also streaming today as well. So, Ricky, don't be whining that I don't bring you a comedy now and again.
Ricky says I'm in. Comedic love interest and bowling.
Yeah.
Love it.
By the way, also in the movie, J.K. Harry, who I love.
Mm-hmm.
And, so there you go.
I love the poster. It says the gutter, America's 15th favorite pastime, just got dangerous. I love it. I love that line. The Gutter's in theaters, Michael?
In theaters and also available on streaming. Let's close out
Streaming
briefly.
where, Michael?
It's everywhere,
Just
bro.
Google it and find out, Mark.
Yeah, come
All
on.
right,
Have
okay.
you heard
All
about
right.
your computer?
Yeah.
Have you heard about it? Have you worked it out yet? Have you figured out how to hit the...
All right, there's no need to rub it in.
I
Go
don't
ahead.
wanna. All right, well, let's wrap things up with Black Box Diaries, a really, really impactful and well-made and affecting and shocking on some level documentary about a woman, the director of the movie, and a professional journalist, Shiori Ito, who decides to reveal what happened when she was sexually assaulted by a very high-profile Japanese politician.
Is it? This is in Japanese?
Well, it's in Japanese and English. She does some English narration here and there, and she's on camera a lot of it.
Do we have a poster for it, Albert? Oh, there it is. Black
Yes, of course.
Box Diaries.
Black Box Diaries. And, she's incredibly brave. She's incredibly determined. And she basically puts it to this abuser and does so in a very methodical fashion, as one would expect from a journalist who knows what she's doing. And, what happens over the course of her assault and incident is shocking to an extent, but we hear about it a lot, especially since #MeToo. And it certainly remains incredibly relevant. And as the story unfolds via, documentary footage, CC cam footage, and of course, interviews and appearances on video, including investigatory conversations with her, everything kind of unfolds. And this was apparently a big deal in Japan.
This was a true story, then you're saying?
Yeah, and one of the things about...
But this is a dramatic retelling of that
No,
true
it is
story?
not. It is a documentary.
Okay.
I should have,
I
there's
think that
all this archival footage. I think I made it pretty clear at the top. But I want you to know, that in
Did he
Japan,
make it clear, Kim? I did not hear him say it was a documentary.
in Japan,
All right.
what? This
All right,
was
anyway.
a very big deal because the man that she's bringing down or trying to bring down is incredibly powerful. And apparently, in terms of judges and the contempt that people have for their fellow human and a certain set of not skills, but morality, certain types of personal responsibility, things like that, that are kind of embedded in Japanese culture and society, kind of work against her as she tries to do this. And it's exciting and it's really well made. And by the way, speaking of San Francisco, you'll be able to see this at the Roxy in San Francisco starting this weekend, but it's also opening in Los Angeles and a variety of other cities. Black Box Diaries. It's strangely enough from MTV documentary films.
Oh, interesting.
And it's kind of considerably better than another Britney Spears video, I'll tell you that. Remember when MTV did videos?
What did you think of Tokyo Vice, speaking of...
I loved it, and I raved about it on the Mark Thompson
I know you
show.
did. I was just asking for the audience who might not have been there.
Loved it.
I just don't know why you...
Why are you yelling?
Black Box Diaries, by the way, is in limited release. But again, I know our friends in Los Angeles and San Francisco, who we dote on and who we play to in large part, although the rest of the world tunes in. 50,000 subscribers.
All right. All right.
All right. I want to talk briefly about some TV shows. before we
Hurry,
get out of here.
Culture Blaster. Our time is short.
Yeah, well,
I'm very important, and I have a lot of very important things to do.
Okay,
and people
I
wait.
just want to say, I'm going to say this
Kind of a big
quickly
deal.
because, again, people complain, where are the comedies? Ghosts starts season 4 a couple weeks ago, and I'm ready for it. Ghosts is the wonderful CBS and Paramount Plus comedy about a young couple that move into basically an estate that she has gotten on the back of a will of some relative she never even knew. And it turns out that the place is haunted, and she gets hit in the head, and she can actually see the ghosts, much to her husband's chagrin.
I see.
Rose McIver is Samantha Sam Arandikar. Utkarsh Ambudkar is her husband, and budding restaurateur Jay Arandikar. But it's the ghosts that run away with this thing, and it is a wonderful, I don't say this, a wonderful adaptation of a British comedy that is just as good, if not better, because it was first, but it has blazed its own trail. I love ghosts. I'll also say quickly, Star Trek Lower Decks, the incredibly funny and Easter egg jammed animated Star Trek series that is ostensibly in Star Trek continuity, believe it or not, is on its final season, season 5, and it again stars the voice talents of Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid, legacy kid.
Let me just ask you about Star Trek Lower Decks. These are the, I mean, it's funny, it kind of explains itself, but who's on the upper decks? The original cast? Or
no, but a lot of those,
a
lot of those people show up. This is the USS Cerritos.
Okay.
And the mother of Tawny Newsome's character, Lieutenant Mariner, is the captain. And so there's mom-daughter conflict.
I see.
And I have to, Jack Quaid as the seemingly hapless but ultimately efficient Brad Boimler is incredibly funny, and they did live-action versions of themselves on Star Trek Strange New Worlds last season, and all I can tell you is this continues to be charming, and again, jammed with Easter eggs. The great we have to Jonathan Frakes, who is a Star Trek mainstay as Riker, and who has directed a number of the live action episodes and movies, has made some appearances as Riker on the show, and I love it. And finally, Superman and Lois. It's season 4, again the final series of episodes. This is on the CW, and it stars Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Tulloch as the best Clark and Lois ever, including Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. I love Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Tulloch.
Wow. Are they in a full-blown love affair, Michael? Or
they
are
still married with twin teenage sons.
Wow.
Of course, there's got to be teenagers. It's the CW.
Now, are they...
It's like Smallville Creek or something.
Are the sons in any way super?
Well, that would be telling, Mark, but... some of that magical Kryptonian energy must have transferred during copulation. I don't know. And this season, they're facing off against the nastiest Lex Luthor in memory, played by Michael Cudlitz from The Walking Dead. I have enjoyed Superman and Lois. I won't even call it a guilty pleasure. None of these are. They're really well-made TV shows, and they're available to anyone who can tune in.
The Culture Blaster has weighed in with an aplomb that I have seldom seen here, and he loves Superman and Lois, now in its final season, he says, on the CW. The best Clark and Lois ever. And he includes Christopher Reeve. By the way, how is that documentary?
Oh, it's wonderful and incredibly moving. And be advised, Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder are
great.
Wonderful.
I get it. But these guys are even just a shade more wonderful.
Yes, I'll say a shade more wonderful.
Star Trek Lower... Well, I just said it, so you're just saying it again a second time. Star Trek Lower Decks is funny, he says. Get on it. Really loves it. It's on Paramount Plus, and it stream away.
Trekkers will really get a kick out of it. If you haven't seen it, jump in.
Speaking of Paramount Plus, he likes Ghosts. It's on broadcast television, if anybody still has that. Season 4 on CBS, and it's also available for streaming on Paramount Plus. He really likes Ghosts. It's funny also, so there's some good funny there. Plus, Black Box Diaries. This is the documentary from Shiori Ito that takes on a high-profile case of sexual abuse, right, in Japan. And it takes on power, and it takes on this sensitive topic, and you can find it, Black Box Diaries, in selected theaters throughout America. The Gutter is the comedy that he really likes. Shemek Moore, Kim Fields, Darcy Carden, Paul Reiser, Susan Sarandon. Some say Sarandon. I say Sarandon. Let's call the whole thing a comedy.
She's a tomato and a tomato.
And really, really enjoyed The Gutter. Right. It's in theaters now.
And available on streaming if you can find it.
I am looking forward to figuring out where I can stream it because, as you know, I never leave the mothership.
Google it.
Absolution is the Liam Neeson offering with a strong performance from Ron Perlman and Frankie Shaw. And you might think it's just another Liam Neeson chance to flex his action muscles, and you'd be right.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
But the Culture Blaster likes this flex, and he says, check it out. There's something oddly transfixing about Liam Neeson, he says.
Why are you yelling?
We'll find that. You find that in theaters, right?
Yes.
Real,
it's wide, as a matter of fact.
A Real Pain is the Jesse Eisenberg directed, written, and starred in offering. Two very different cousins. One is doing very well and well off in New York City. The other is kind of a slacker but super charming. It stars Eisenberg, as I've mentioned, in the lead role, but it also has this other great performance from the Culkin kid.
Oh, the Culkin kid runs away with it. I also want to say quickly, the young British actor Will Sharp plays their tour guide. He's really good. And guess who's one of the other people on the tour? A woman played by no less than Jennifer Grey. Jennifer Grey, baby, is not in the corner. She's in Warsaw.
Kieran Culkin with that cast all mixed together, and apparently it's a very good movie.
Yeah,
Michael really liked it.
It is my favorite of all these films. If I had to pick a favorite, I would say it's A Real Pain.
A Real Pain, again, written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg with Kieran Culkin. Well, Michael, you certainly exhausted the areas and genres of entertainment and enlightenment. You've got a documentary, you've got some animation, you've got comedy, you've got pathos. It's exciting what you've done. And I appreciate your weekly contributions, Culture Blaster.
Thank you. And speaking of which, you can check out my latest column in The Voice of San Francisco. It's all about a movie that may be my absolute favorite of the year, Anora, that we covered here on the Mark Thompson Show, and I praised and, gushed over, and I get into greater depth at The Voice of San Francisco. You can see the column at thevoicesf.org.
Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster, follow him. He's on Instagram. You can see all of his little romps with all of his little artistic friends. And
the disdain.
His Halloween, he goes out in Halloweens with all the cool kids. Is it Mike the Knife 123?
That's at Instagram, and of course, I'm at Michael Snyder's Culture Blast.
You are, and you come and go on a rainbow. How about it for the Culture Blaster, Michael Snyder?
Hey, it's Day of the Dead tomorrow. Stay alive, people.
It is Day of the Dead tomorrow. You're right about that. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, it is always a pleasure to wrap up a Friday. We've got a big weekend. I think we did a lot of good stuff this week. We did a lot of politics, as you might imagine. The new week brings maybe one of the most consequential weeks in the history of modern America. We will be here every day, and we will include next week a special election night meeting. I mean, again, this is not a meetup like where you have to register or whatever. This is just open. It'll be like a show, 8:30 to 9:30 Pacific time. That's 11:30 to 12:30 on the East Coast. Please join us. We'll have a lot of really smart people who'll be weighing in and part of the conversation. As we watch a lot of the coverage, we'll be streaming some of the coverage and commenting on that.
There's never been anything like this.
It's our election special. It'll be Tuesday night, 8:30 to 9:30 on the West Coast. Again, 11:30 to 12:30 on the East Coast. Your time may vary by time zone and geography. Gil Gross, John Rothman, Pat Thurston, Nikki Maduro, Kim will be here. I will be here. Michael Shore will stop through. David K. Johnston, David Katz. So it's going to be a lot packed into that hour, and I'm looking forward to having as many of you stop through as possibly can. Before I leave, how about some quick shouts? This is 911. What is this? BO says, Mark, emergency 911. You need to please go back at once and clip out Anthony Davis's quote, he was born with a gold toilet in his mouth. Have a nice weekend. Yeah, that was Anthony Davis talking about Donald Trump, of course. Thank you, BO. And BO also says this. I'm sorry, I'm just catching up on that show from a week ago, or I would have sent this to you sooner. Well, I appreciate you sending it at all. And thank you for making us
He was
aware
also
of what...
on Wednesday if you want to watch that clip as well.
Yeah, he was actually really
yesterday,
great on Wednesday. So, yeah, check out Anthony Davis there. Scott says about Ted Cruz, and Kim had pointed out that Ted Cruz spent a lot of campaign money on salons and basically on beauty treatments. Scott says Ted Cruz should sue that salon for false advertising. Yeah, what can one say about Ted Cruz? But
it was obviously a mistake. In hindsight, I wouldn't have done it.
I don't know. He is someone who is not liked by many, as we say. And while he faces a very tight race in Texas. I mean, 1 percentage point separates those two in Texas. So
wouldn't that be fun to have him lose that race?
That would be just amazing and a critical shift in the Senate. But I don't know. I think that's a tough percentage point. Cruz has really got his hooks in hard in Texas, but we will see. Kim does her after party live.
We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Watch this weekend. We may drop an episode and conversation that has nothing to do with politics. We may start doing a little bit more of that, just as a little antidote to the intensity of politics. But next week, we start the week, and we started hard with wall-to-wall politics, and we're looking forward to a lot of heat.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show.
And light.
Bye-bye.
Yes. That's all the time we have.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Out of time until Monday. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.